welcome everyone to today's Mid-Atlantic ADA Center webinar presented or through AARP, and it is called Livable Communities. A little bit about today's presenter. Phil Gale is a speaker, trainer, and life transition coach, and is the owner of Gale Force Training, a company dedicated to providing those services to individual, group, and corporate clients. He has multiple certifications in human potential relationship training and life coaching disciplines. He retired recently as a deputy training director in a unit of the CIA for after 23 years. So we are very happy to have you with us today, Phil. Using all of your great training experience to present for AARP. So at this point, I am going to hand the presentation over to you.
All right. Thank you very, very much. Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of AARP, I would like to say welcome to this particular presentation on livable communities. For those of you who are visually impaired, I am Black, clean-shaven, and extremely good-looking, according to my wife. For those of you who aren't visually impaired, just go with the flow. So I want to just thank everyone today, and we are on slide 13, which is livable communities. And this is our title slide, and we are, during our time together today, we're going to discuss what do livability communities, LCs, look like, the 8 domains of livable communities, what do people 50 plus think about where they live. This is a bit of a misnomer because AARP is geared to older Americans, but everything in this presentation pertains to basically every group and demographic, and building houses for all ages. Moving on to page 14, we have a mandatory disclaimer. This session is intended to be informational and educational and does not constitute medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. You should always seek the advice of a physician and/or other qualified healthcare provider for diagnosis and treatment of your specific medical needs for questions regarding personal, health, or medical conditions, and before beginning or changing any treatment, activity, program, or dietary plan. AARP is not responsible for the consequences of any decisions or actions taken in reliance upon or as a result of the information provided during this event. Information used in this presentation can be found in the AARP book, Where We Live, Communities for All Ages. And now that all the legalese is out of the way, we can move forward to page 15. So what we want to do is to discuss what livable communities look like. And what we're doing here is on this slide is depicted where all of the livable communities that are designated as of 2021 are. Currently, there are over 600 designated livable communities within the US and our territories. And the definition of a livable community is local communities of all sizes are reinventing themselves to become more livable for people of all ages. And that is the key, all ages, not only all ages, but of all demographics, so that we can have these communities all over the country. And these communities are a self-select community organization, and it's a result of action by the local government. There is only one state that has designated itself as a livable state, and that is the state of New Jersey. In Virginia, there are 6 designated livable communities, 2 in Pennsylvania, There are none in Delaware, there are none in West Virginia, and there are 9 currently in Maryland. And it's the age-friendly network of livable communities encourages villages, towns, cities, and as I said, states. New Jersey has designated the entire state to be a livable community based on the livable community voluntary criteria. It helps them to prepare for the rapid aging of the U.S. population and the diversification of the U.S. population by paying increased attention to the environmental, economic, and social factors that influence the health and well-being of older adults as well as other demographics. By definition, when you start making a livable community, you incorporate a very diverse and inclusive group into your community. The local leadership needs to endorse the reinvention in order for it to actually move forward, which is one of the reasons why it is a self-selected program, so that you have the political will to move forward on those particular initiatives that actually would go forward to create a livable communities. Local leaderships need to hear from the constituents themselves in order to move the program forward. So in other words, whatever constituent you represent, whether it be individual with disabilities, whether it's single parent households or aging populations, those constituents need to cooperate and work with the local government or the sponsoring organizations in order to bring about those desired outcomes. So in moving to slide 16, we say, what do people think about where they live and what do they consider extremely important in an ideal world? Well, remaining in their community is very important. Affordable housing is very important. Easily accessible transportation is very important. Equal opportunity to work, 66%. Job training opportunities, volunteer opportunities, jobs to meet the needs of people with disabilities, the ability to participate in decision making and community councils, et cetera, et cetera. All of the things I just noted were considered extremely important to over 50% of the population, and some of them, especially remaining in their community, up to 77%. Now, this particular survey group were people over the age of 50. But as I stated before, based on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, everyone's basic desires are exactly the same. So therefore, we expect these particular survey results to be duplicated throughout the demographics within the community. So we need I'll get a little feedback. There's also been additional research on this with other demographics concerning these, and they all basically line up to be the same. The only thing that is different is that people with school-age children also put the education system high up in this matrix, whereas people over 50 are usually empty nesters. Moving on to page 17, we have the title page is How Do These Communities Get Started? And this is basically showing the history of the Livable Communities Initiative. It was started by the Clinton administration in 1998. And it just said basically the 21st century is supposed to be an exclusive, not exclusive, an inclusive, livable community, to be an economically powerful community where high quality life attracts the best educated and trained workers, to include schools, strong families, creativity, and the best minds will get together and actually make these a reality. And there's a graphic that says the initiative became the Livable Communities Initiative of the 21st century. So AARP is the United States representative for the US, for the World Health Organization, which also bought into the same concept. So in early 2000, AARP became the US affiliate of the World Health Organization Global Network. And together with the World Health Organization, they focus on what are known as the 8 domains of livability that we now know as livable communities. In other words, there are these 8 categories of things that should ideally be to the standards that is desired by the livable community writ large, so that therefore they can meet those standards. There is no quote unquote standard. More than anything else, it's just a template as to what we would like to happen or see happening when we talk about livable communities. Moving on to page 18. On page 18, slide 18, there is a logo of the AARP Livable Communities program. And incorporated in that program, it's a circle. It says livable communities on the outside, but within it is a depiction of a model, a livable community. It has someone on a bicycle. It has what looks like they're all in silhouette, a young family with a small child. It looks like 2 older adults. There is a city bus. And above that, there are multiple types of housing with trees, so that, in other words, most of the domains are of the livable communities are incorporated within that particular logo. And the 8 domains of availability impact the quality of these community features, and they talk to the well-being not only of older adults, but everyone in the community, more livable for people of all ages. In other words, there isn't a senior living facility as such. What it is everything is incorporated with mixed-use housing, so that the community is more or less like communities of old used to be. So the first thing they incorporate are outdoor spaces and buildings. The second is transportation. The third is social participation. You need that social interaction because isolation is not good on a number of different levels. So we want that social participation. We want social inclusion for that same reason. We don't want individuals to be isolated. Either social inclusion by a group being stigmatized, social participation, meaning you have the ability to go out and find something to do to interact with other individuals. Work and civic engagement are extremely important. Communication and information is important. And the last part of livable, of the 8 domains of livability, is actual health and wellness services. Your particular requirements in terms of the priorities of these domains of livability relate specifically to your own specific situation. That being said, eventually you will need to use all of them. It's just at different stages, different ones have a greater impact than the others do for each individual. Moving to page 19 now, we have a slide that says building an environment for everyone, and a truly livable community should and can be intergenerational, have a range of housing options at various price points, which is getting to be more and more difficult, and have services that help people live independently and care for their homes. A truly livable community can be a lifelong home. And down at the bottom, it gives a website where you can download a copy of the Where We Live book. And there's also a graphic on the slide, and I'm holding one up here, and I printed this one off the web. And you will kill a lot of trees, but you can also get it by going on to the AARP website, and you can get your copy. And it has examples of everything we're talking about, and ideas and concepts that have been positively utilized all around the country. In Maryland, Baltimore is a designated livable community. Does it mean Baltimore is like the be all and end all? If you've seen the news, that is not the case. What they're saying is we have made it our goal to move positively toward these particular ideas based on our current situation. So I would definitely say, if you have the capability, please just go ahead and download it. You can download it online, and you can look at it soft copy. It is a very, very good read. It's a very informative read. Once again, as we go along, if you have any questions, please go ahead and put them in the chat, and Carlene will definitely let me know about it.
Yep, will do.
All right, moving right along. We're on page 20 now, and we're talking about the fact that most communities are missing middle housing. And that is a tragedy. As we know, with the economy now, builders can't find workers. It's very hard to find construction workers these days. Also, the building materials, the price of materials has skyrocketed, which means that people are paying so much for rent, it's cheaper to buy a house. Therefore, they're looking for a house, and they're driving up the prices. So all of these things go into making the missing middle housing. Corporations are buying up single family houses now and turning them into rental properties because they realized they can make a lot of money that way. So there are a lot of factors that go into this. So each community has to try to figure out what to do. So for many households, and there's a picture of different housing on here, many households, the right type of housing at the right price in the right location can't be found because it no longer exists. And so communities and builders recognize the need to change the ways in the way communities are designed and built, especially when they're trying to put together an intergenerational ideal mixed. Livable communities can include duplexes, which are basically, everyone knows a duplex, or two houses that are side by side, basically townhouses that are side by side and are independent. There are fourplexes, and there are even multiplexes. Courtyard apartments are usually very good for individuals that utilize a wheelchair or have mobility issues, because of the fact that in apartments sometimes power goes out in the wintertime or something like that, especially in the Northeast with ice storms and things. So they are usually considered ideal for individuals with mobility issues. You also have accessory dwelling units. There's a slide here with an accessory dwelling unit, what is commonly basically known as a guest house. And a guest house is basically a house that's on someone else's property with a larger main house, but the smaller house gives you that degree of independence where you can come and go as you please. You can also do that with a single family dwelling, just convert the outside and basically split the house up. I lived in one of those in Korea where there was a stair between the two units, and they just basically put a door between them so we couldn't go either way without anyone else, but without the other's permission. So that worked out very well. Finally, there's something called a tiny house, and a tiny house has 280 square feet for three residents, up to three residents is 410 feet. Whatever it is tiny. It is tiny by definition. And if you are a minimalist, it is an excellent opportunity and an excellent way to move into a community you may not otherwise be able to afford, in terms of buying a full-size house or a rental or something like that. But a tiny house may be exactly what you want to do. And there's also home sharing where people, where a number of people live in the same house, but they have a common area, sort of like a roommate situation. And all of those are viable. One of the challenges with this is with mixed use communities, there's the NIMBY, not in my backyard kind of attitude, whereby people don't want to do that anymore. You know, they don't want any new housing because they think it's going to bring in a bad element, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So therefore, they don't want to have that mixed use housing in there because of that quote unquote bad element. So one of the challenges with a livable community is ensuring that everyone's equities are listened to, not necessarily met, but at least they're given consideration. So that's the reason why we want to do it that way. Moving on to page 21, there are certain recommendations that we have for creating livable communities. And there's a slide here depicting an outdoor fitness course. And outdoor fitness courses are amazing. You can run along the path. When I lived in Tacoma, Washington, I used to run it all the time. They're really good. And so what you want to do for your outdoor spaces, which is one of your living community objectives, is build parks for all ages, parents, grandparents, toddlers, teenagers, such as you see swings for adults, you see swings for kids, you see a playground for kids, you can see an adult play area. And those things work out really good because they serve as an opportunity to meet new people. They serve as an opportunity for individuals to socialize. They serve as an opportunity just for people to get outside and get some vitamin D. So they're all good, and they should have benches and places to be for older people to sit down and talk. Some places have outdoor chess boards. So, well, you can play chess or you can play checkers, and you should have accommodations for people with disabilities as well. So, in other words, when these individuals actually design or retrofit these outdoor spaces, these are some of the considerations that they ideally should have when they're being created. And for individuals that are creating these now, it's sort of baked into the cake. So they do them automatically anyway, because they just incorporate it into their actual planning process. And there are some around here by me. I live in Glen Burnie, Maryland. I live by the B&A Trail. That outdoor space is part of the Rails to Trails program. It used to be part of the B&O Railway. They just basically ripped up the tracks and left a couple artifacts and put blacktop on it. And so now it's become a bike path. People walk along it. They walk their dogs, people come. So it's very inclusive. People are very friendly. So that's one of the main reasons why you want to create those outdoor spaces. It's socializing as well as actually getting exercise. Moving to page 22, we talk about some of the innovative programs that have been instituted as a livable community. There's a program called The Grass is Greener by Mayor Bowser in DC, because this is where, this was sort of formulated with the DC in mind because we're the Maryland chapter. There's the New Beginnings Youth Development Center, and that's the Department of Youth Rehab Services in DC. Local landscaping services are involved with the actual process. So DC's, all of these things encourage total participation based on age, ability, ethnicity, everything. Usually when you have these programs, they have open forums where people can come and make comments, or you can send in comments or whatever. And all of these programs strive to incorporate the concerns of all of the citizens into the actual program. So what is important about this is if you're in an area where there is a livable community, and you can go on the AARP website, type livable communities, and they actually have a drop down list of where they are in every state and territory, or if they don't have one, you can start one. But the point is, if there's something there, it would behoove you to actually research it, check it out, to make sure if you have any equities, they're being met, because that is by definition what the program is all about. It's there to accommodate the citizens to make the community as quote unquote livable for everyone in the community as possible. So a made up mind is critical to it. Corporations have been working hard on this program as well. You see programs such as who is that? Subaru. Subaru's as a corporation donates a bunch of money to the Wilderness Fund. Walmart gives days of service to their people, to their employees, so they can go out and do things such as adopt a local elementary school where they go paint it up and do things like that. So all of those programs go into making a livable community, and corporate sponsorship can get involved. You can ask sponsors and they will help, people sponsoring little league teams, things like that, because it's good for them, because it's good for good publicity, and it's good for the community because it actually helps to benefit the community writ large in a good way. So all of those are extremely important. I would suggest and invite you to check your local programs to see if there's something available where you are. Moving to the slide 23, then we talk about transportation and how will residents move around. So what we want to have is transit-oriented development. I know, for example, in Baltimore, due to a shortage of bus drivers, the people, they had to reroute some of the buses in order to try to better serve the community. The challenge with that is some people need those buses to get to work. So sometimes it's a trade-off on one thing for the other. We can't do anything about the lack of bus drivers. So what we've got to do is make do with what we have. Some of the things incorporated in transit-oriented development is our mobility buses. There's an individual that lives near me. I see the mobility bus. They go out every morning. They're dressed. When I used to go to work on a regular basis, now that I'm semi-retired, I don't go out every morning at that time. But when I do go out at that time, I see the bus. It picks the individual up. He utilizes a wheelchair, and I've seen them come back in the afternoon. So I know they're going to a job. So those are the type of things, the accommodations that have been made by communities to accommodate their various populations. There's also walkability. Some places are easier to walk than the others. Bike friendliness, as I said, people ride bikes here, but because we are far away from the metropolitan area, we basically are riding on the bike trails on the weekends for fun. Self-driving cars, not there yet. Safe streets, complete seats. Safe streets are very, very good because those are the streets with the talking crosswalk signs. But you also have pedestrian islands. When I was in Japan, stationed in Japan, on Japan for the people who were sight impaired, they had raised dots on the subway, and on the sidewalk, so that they could tell by the way the dots were aligned or the way the ground was, where they were in relation to other things in traffic and the subway cars. So those sorts of things are built in to help certain populations of the community. You can have build circles, you have traffic circles. Just make sure you know where you are, so you know which direction to drive in traffic circles. Because if you're in Japan and Britain and East Africa, then the traffic circles go in the opposite direction as the rest of the world. So just be aware of that, or you're going to be in some trouble. And education to enable older drivers to maintain their skills. AARP has drivers training to make sure everyone has good driving skills, cognizant driving skills. As a matter of fact, if you get an AARP, if you receive an AARP driving certificate, if you're of a certain age, then some companies will give you, insurance companies will actually give you a discount on your insurance rate. Moving to slide 24. Here we have a photo of a couple that are crossing at a designated crosswalk, and it's their crosswalk is cobblestone, whereas the rest of the street is asphalt and concrete to make it that much more distinctive, and it's outlined on the edges in white. So therefore, those are they are all sometimes called complete streets, and they're usable by all roadway users, whether they are walking, biking, driving, whatever you're doing. It's built so that everyone can properly be accommodated. If, on the other hand, you're just riding a bike, then you have to make use of bike lanes when possible. When not possible, you just ride with traffic. So walkability is important. Places to wait for transportation, bus shelters, weather shelters are extremely important for inclement weather. Visible crosswalks, sidewalks safely away from bike lanes, and that is also includes the cutouts on the curbs, because cutout on the curbs are not specifically, well, they're a part of the ADA, but a lot of people use them. Women with strollers and people with young babies use them to push across. Bikers love them. I love it when I ride my bike for the bike cutouts. So that's the reason why I said a lot of things that apply to one demographic also apply to other demographics. That's just the way it is. Good barrier-free visibility is always good, and extra wide roads, but extra wide roads encourage speeding. As we get more and more built up wherever you are, then speeding becomes an issue. And if speeding is an issue, then they may put in speed bumps in a local neighborhood. If there's a lot of young children and there's been accidents or something like that, because people have been exceeding the speed limit, the local government can determine that speed bumps are a viable way to calm traffic down. And of course, places to sit. It's always good to have some place to sit. Moving to the next domain. The next domain is health and wellness. And how does the Livable Communities program help support health and wellness? According to the Social Security Administration, for 65-year-olds today, 1 out of 4 will live past the age of 90. 1 out of 10 will live past the age of 95. And my goal is 104. My father just passed away last year. My father was 97. So I want to make 104. And so we want to be able to support that health and wellness. All of these domains relate one to another, such as walking along the fitness trails, those sorts of things, having that support your health and wellness. They all go ahead with the outdoor spaces. They all interrelate. We want to establish fitness zones, make health a public priority, as opposed to something that's that an individual has to shell out money for. And some states have more money for that, or some locations, than others. Create farms that can feed the needy. Teach home safety to residents. AARP has a program where they do that. Have educational sessions on memory loss, fall prevention, and caregiving. If you go looking around usually at your library, if you're at your local public library, they have classes going on throughout the month on a various number of subjects. In my county, they have the young kids programs, they have the teen programs, they have the senior programs, they have the general adult programs. So by doing that, you have all of these sessions and it becomes a resource. And unfortunately, the challenge is not many people take advantage of all of these resources, even in a designated livable community. Moving to page 26, ways to encourage community engagement. We want to build community engagement by starting a Citizens Academy to teach about government. A lot of people don't know the power that they have as individual citizens, so therefore we want to go ahead and start that. We want to teach techniques of advocacy, which is basically speaking up for yourself, telling those that are in power or have the ability to make these choices how you feel about a particular issue, whether it's mixed use housing, or whether it's building a new senior center or building a new elementary school, whatever it is. You have that opportunity, and also it's also a responsibility to you let your government know how you think. Produce annual reports that are more than numbers. In other words, what we want to do is not just throw out a budget. What we want to do is say, this is what we have accomplished toward this particular goal. So if you're going to build mixed use housing, this year we got all the permitting done, we got the basic architecture drawing, the project plans done, whatever, as opposed to just saying the numbers. Invite the community to partake. You can do things like pair an adult with a high school or college student to learn to be tech literate or whatever. You can join mentoring programs. I do a mentoring programs usually on Wednesdays. I didn't today because I had to prep for the presentation again. But I do a men's a high school mentoring program, and it works out. It's amazing. Have lunch and learn with a youngster. Get involved with younger people. It is studies have shown, again, research, that the more you engage with someone who has less of what you have to give, the better off you feel as an individual because you're helping someone else. Activate the Alleyways is a program that is bigger in the cities than it is in rural areas, and you can also reclaim spaces, brownfields, and try no mow grass. And what these programs are, these are really good programs. They're doing them in Baltimore, they're doing them in DC, they're doing them in most urban areas, whereby if you have a lot that is just being vacant, people with the ability will just go in, a number of people clear the lot and put in gardens. I mean, they will put in legit food gardens. And by doing that, it's usually intergenerational because the older people are teaching preschoolers and everything all the way up to adults how to grow food. It works out really well. And they're usually very well maintained because the people that are involved in the project have pride of ownership. So it works out really well. Brownfields is basically repurposing old industrial buildings. There's a old cannery down in Cambridge, Maryland. I'm from the Eastern Shore of Maryland, and they just basically tore everything out and rehabbed it completely. It's an historical building, but now it's a multi-use building. They have community meeting rooms in there. They have a anime studio, world-class anime studio that works out of there. So there are many things you can do if the community gets together. One of the greatest things you can do is actually build social participation. And social participation is more of a challenge since COVID because people got used to being alone. But one of the challenges of being alone is individuals were feeling isolated, instances of depression, anxiety, all of these things went up during the pandemic. And so what we want to do with a livable community is build social participation by finding common causes. Find a cause that you're involved in that you like, be it pollution or literacy or whatever it is. You can work on those. Set up issue groups. You can create one if there isn't one already. You can talk to the neighbors. You can identify which neighbors need help because you can help. No matter what your ability, you can help someone else. Volunteering, there are all kinds of organizations that want you to volunteer. Just look it up. Just type in your interest on the internet, and I guarantee you there's there's an organization near you that does what you want to do. Meet, greet, and eat. Those are just social gatherings. Those are always fun. You can have, we talked about before, you can also ask retailers to sponsor little league teams, things like that. That works out very well. A lot of people will participate in whatever it is you're doing. A lot of people, one, they don't know it exists, and or they're just waiting to be asked because people in this day and time aren't as used to volunteering for things as they used to be. So therefore, if you have a program that you really believe in, then you can actually go and do that. You can also have get with people that you usually don't associate with, and make connections there. You can build social participation by being curious about something that you always thought that you'd like to do, or you were curious about and just wanted to know something. Those are the things that you can do for social participation. Those things I was talking about at your local library, those lectures that they have. It may be on 15th century Italian art, and you go and you may just say, well, why not? I'll just go. Those are the type of things that keep you curious, keep you motivated, keep you moving forward. And that's what we want to do with all of these livable communities, because it depends on participation of everyone. Not everyone going to work in the morning, going straight into their house, locking the door, and playing video games. What we want to do is to get people out in the local environment to make it a true community by definition. One of the things that is most important, and that's high up on that Maslow's hierarchy of needs, is food, one. The second is shelter. The lack of affordable housing is slide 28, is a constant and accelerating national concern. The housing market has been shaped to a great extent by housing codes, some of which were enacted in the 1900s and need updating to allow increased density and different types of housing. Once again, this is the not in my backyard type of mentality, because if you get mixed use housing down here, that means potentially I'm going to have low income individuals, and with low income individuals, crime follows. That is not the case. Statistics have proven that, but a lot of people still believe that. Therefore, it's difficult to get mixed use housing in. Set aside the things we were talking about concerning the availability, the lack of construction workers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Another aspect of this is redlining from the 1940s coming forward, which were discriminatory in terms of people of color. Many places have taken it off the books, but de facto it is still around, which makes it even more difficult to build affordable housing. Now, Montgomery County, Maryland in the 70s actually determined that 15% of housing in new developments of more than 50 units be affordable for moderate income residents. So in other words, of everything you make, 15% needs to be available for moderate income residents. Moderate income is determined by the local zoning board. So those sorts of things work. Columbia, Maryland, of course, was the first really large scale planned community. back in the 1970s, and it was a big success. And I live about 20 miles from there, and it's still a fantastic place when you drive through because it was planned for parks and things like that. So it worked out really well. More than 800 communities across the nation have enacted similar policies. Slide 29. We've come to the end of our trip through livable communities, and I will just turn it right back. But I want to say that livable communities depend on you because they need your input. They need your questions. They need your comments. As I said, you can go online to the AARP website /livable communities, and you can find out if yours is there, or better yet, you can just call up your mayor's office or the county council's office or whatever, and they can tell you, do they have the livable communities designation. So with that, I will turn it over to Carly and see if there are any comments or questions.
Thank you so much. That was really great information. As you can imagine, in what I call disability land, at the ADA centers and in the work we do, one of the most frequent topics, and something that our grant funder even has, had interest in and had concerns with, is, the fact that and not in every case, but disability and aging do kind of go hand in hand. The older you get, the
Yes.
more likely you will end up with a disability of some kind.
Right.
And so, like you were saying in your presentation, there's often overlap in needs. So, it's great to hear again that some of that is taken into consideration with these with the 8, remind me, it's the 8, what are they called? The 8,
the 8 domains.
The 8 domains. All
the
right.
8 domains of livability.
Yeah.
There is a lot of intersection, and that's the reason why, by definition, AARP is geared toward older individuals.
Mhm.
However, those 8 domains cut across everyone. The only ones that, as I said, is schooling. The AARP isn't particularly worried about schooling because most of the people are toward the end of their careers.
Sure.
And they don't have young kids.
Since we have a little bit of time, I thought maybe we could just do a really quick little experiment. And I'm very curious with the audience that we have out there, what would be your top issue, out of those 8 domains? You said that they had you'd gone through and read some statistics on what are the most important things for people. So would it be okay for me to ask people just to put in the chat kind of their top 2, just for a little experiment?
You mean the number 1 domain?
Just out of
their top issues.
Yeah. So I'm seeing a couple things come through. I mean, I know for me personally, it's definitely the affordable housing. One of the folks made a comment, not just affordable housing, but accessible housing. And this is something that we talk about a lot. There, some of the requirements regarding how many units, how many accessible units there need to be, for example, in multifamily housing.
Right.
It doesn't really seem like it sufficiently meets the needs of people. And the wait lists for an accessible unit can be pretty long. So, those 2 things seem to go hand in hand.
And I think part of that issue is, for the individuals that are designing those buildings, is to understand that those individuals with those type of needs make just as much money as quote unquote able-bodied individuals.
Right.
If they say you've got to make 15% available to low income people, and you've got to make 14, like 15% available to people to make it wheelchair accessible. To them, what they're saying is, these are loss leaders. I'm not going to make any money off of this. And I think what, as a contractor or builder, you need to say, you're selling those accessible houses at full market value. And then they would go, oh, really? Well, instead of 15%, let me put in 25, 30% because I'm going to make margin on it anyway.
Right, right. So looks like that spurred a couple more questions. Yep, I'm seeing, affordable housing, accessible housing. Here's one about using the principles of universal design. And it sounds like, that would definitely be important for a livable community because you're trying to make it universally accessible for everybody there.
Yes.
And usable.
And that goes to as I was talking about, the cutout on the curbs and the talking crosswalk signs are the ones that make noise. In Japan, they make noise and they talk. So all of those things, and if you sell it as something that's viable to the entire community, as opposed to a specific segment of the community, then your chances of getting whatever enacted is much better. Just like the accessible housing for individuals with wheelchairs or whatever, we want the cabinets low, et cetera, then, hey, if you say they're going to pay full price, hey, I'll build all you want. But by definition, you don't want the entire building to be that, because once again, you're isolating individuals and you're not being inclusive. So you're sort of defeating the purpose of the program in the first place.
So actually, those large complexes of living communities, like retirement communities, that kind of thing, we need to start inviting in everybody else. that can't think of the past eventually.
Retirement communities, they can't, by definition, be retirement communities. So when you see those places that say 55 and above, by law, they have to do the same thing. They've got to offer 15% of their housing, at least 15%, to individuals that are below 55, so they won't get sued, right?
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Because that's the ADA again. That's discrimination. That's age discrimination in reverse. So what they do is, but trust me, those houses, that 15% goes wham, super fast. They get into those communities and never want to leave.
Right, I bet. Let's see. Somebody else said, what would be crucial for them would be wayfinding in public right of way. So, like they were saying, the safe streets. And then tying into that, somebody made a comment. Identifiable crossings are helpful, but in the picture that was shown, it had the cobblestones. And apparently for white cane users, that can be difficult to understand or tricky with the white cane. So
that's an excellent point. And that alludes back to the fact that the individuals who designed that crosswalk may not have had visually impaired individuals in mind when they designed the crosswalk. Sure. Remember when I said one of the things that we want to do for an inclusive community is advocacy. If you don't have anybody at the table, if you don't have anybody that are addressing those concerns on the planning board, then by definition, they're going to get left out. Because they're going to say, well, nobody said anything about cobblestones. Whereas that's why I said in Japan, they've got those little dots and everything and I actually asked somebody, I'm going, why are all these, what's with these lines and dots and everything? And they go, oh, those are for visually impaired people. And I go, Then of course I started seeing them everywhere because I knew what I was looking for.
Mhm.
But if those concerns are not incorporated in the original plan, then it may be too late to get them rectified, because once those cobblestones are down, and cobblestones are really expensive, then the chances of them being taken up are slim. So get in on the ground floor of the process.
Gotcha. We have somebody here that says, with regard to the number of units for people under 55. This is saying, under fair housing, bona fide housing for older persons can require all residents to be 55 or older, but must indicate at least one person living in the household has to be 55 or older. I see. That's interesting. And then this person says, I think all livable communities should have some sort of mayor's committee for access that includes people with disabilities, a representative from the mayor's office or the municipal ADA coordinator, agencies that provide services for people with disabilities. This could be a monthly committee where access and livability could be addressed.
I agree completely. You know what the challenge is? Finding people who want to serve on those committees.
Right.
That's an American thing across the board.
Yeah.
So somebody needs to do something about that. Well, can you volunteer?
Exactly.
Can you commit to the second Thursday of every month for a year to do this? Oh no, I'm busy. I got things to do.
Right. Somebody needs to, right? Nope. That totally makes sense. So we're a couple minutes close to the hour, but I really do encourage people to go to the AARP website, take a look. Again, everybody here will receive a link to where we live. And on slide 31, thank you again for joining us. And thank you so much, Phil, for presenting. And, I hope that this inspires people to go out and find, am I in a livable community, and what can I do to get that started?
Exactly. Advocacy is key.
Yep. So, and for anybody who has ADA related questions, the Mid-Atlantic ADA Center can be reached toll free at 1-800-949-4232, locally 301-217-0124, or you can email us at adainfo.org. And with that, we're going to wrap it up. And I hope everybody there has a great afternoon. Thanks again.
Thank you.